Tuesday. It is Tuesday, the 31st of October. It's Halloween Day. It's the 304th day of the year. There's 61 days left in 2023. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. I'm talking, my lips aren't even moving, huh? All right, it's Halloween. Yes, the scary time of the year. Old television movies with Frankenstein, the Mummy, Dracula, Blackula. Yeah, there was a character named Blackula. Then, of course, there is the trick or treating. I love dressing up. I still do, obviously, as you can see. But it was fun. Halloween still remains a custom that you have to physically act out. It isn't a way to do Halloween virtually. At least I'm sure there is a way, but we don't do it virtually. I'm sure. So let's see. But it's a hell of a lot more fun to watch the kids go from house to house and trick or treat. Wear your mask or your teeth if you got them. Maybe it's old fashioned, but it's old fashioned fun. Growing up, it was cool to trick or treat. Youngsters running from house to house with their bags, sacks, or whatever to capture the goodies that were being handed out. Today, the word is out that our neighborhood is the neighborhood to hit. So they got the streets blocked off on both ends. They got police up and they'll have police up and down. They got the spotlights everywhere, and they bring the kids on trailers and they let them off and they just take off up and down the street. Their babies being pushed in strollers, elementary school age children, some having to escort their younger brothers and sisters and their moms. And there are even a few dads out there. It's a fun night. And if you're out there tonight, have fun and be safe. Our G-list guest today is it's a round table with myself, Barbara, and Michael in the gallery, which includes you if you want to. So Sean will please put that link up where people can comment. Our show today, of course, is sponsored by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl customizes a solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable regulars. I'm going to pull my teeth here. Barbara Wallace Evans and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara Wallace Evans and Michael Walker. How are we doing this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh man, I tell you, this is so much fun. How we doing, everybody? Everybody good?
Doing good. And yourself?
Well, I think I got a toothache. I'm doing great. Let's see. So let's kind of get to our round table here. So how you doing, Barbara? Tell me, how was your weekend and what went on with you and all that stuff?
Thom, it was a great weekend. I'm doing well, but I'm recovering from the weekend, a very long weekend, a busy one. I actually started on last Wednesday attending Magic City Classic events, the huge classic that's been going on for 82 years here in Birmingham, Alabama, between Alabama A&M University and Alabama State University. Of course, the big football game is the center of all of the activities, but there are tons and tons of activities throughout the week celebrating the classic. Um, there were breakfasts and luncheons and galas and receptions and dinners and parties and you name it, everything was going on. I was telling someone I actually attended about 7 different events on Friday, and I didn't even make it to everything that I was invited to. On Saturday, there were tailgating galore, parties, and celebrations of all kinds. Congratulations to Alabama State. They won the game. But tie if everybody goes to see the halftime show, of course, the bands are outstanding, and I think there was pretty much a tie between the two bands. They were both phenomenal. Um, I can't say enough good things about it. But then on Sunday, I actually tried to recover pretty quickly and drove down to Montgomery to attend the funeral services for Reverend Dr. William Charles Larkin, the brother of Thom Larkin, who again is a good friend of ours, and um, beautiful service, homegoing service for him on Sunday evening.
Okay. So, uh, do the people actually watch the game now? They used to just walk around and thing the whole time.
Yes, yeah. It has evolved sometime. I think there are a few people who are actually interested in the game and the outcome of the game. So there are some people in the stands who actually go to actually watch the game. There are others who actually parade around and
Which
Michael.
team was favored? Which team was favored?
I think Alabama A&M was expected to win. I don't know if what the point spread it was or anything, but I think that both teams were pretty much evenly matched, and it was a pretty close game there, at least during the first half. I actually left the game after halftime to try to get home to get out of the traffic. Like I said, I was trying to get to a birthday party on Saturday night and didn't even make it to that because I was just exhausted. But there were probably at least 65,000 people within in the stands for the game. And outside the stadium, there were probably 150,000 people just out there tailgating and having a great time. So
So they had it. They still had it at Legion Field, right?
yes, yeah, the game is still played at Legion Field. They thought about trying to move it to the new protective stadium downtown, and they got a lot of pushback from the community and the alums from both schools because parking situations and space for tailgating is just not available in that downtown space near protective stadium. So I think they'll continue to have a lot of pushback if they try to move it to another location here in Birmingham.
Well, I wish they had the actual Iron Bowl in
Yeah,
Birmingham the way they
yeah.
used to.
It was a lot different when the games were played here in Birmingham. I think there was a lot of fanfare around the Iron Bowl when it was here, and it I guess some people said it wasn't a neutral site because it's so close to Tuscaloosa, and they felt like Alabama had somewhat of an advantage when the Iron Bowl was played here in Birmingham. But I really liked it when it was here. It was a
Well,
definitely different type of atmosphere.
you you recruit Birmingham, and we had a lot of guys on our team from Birmingham, so it
Right,
was a home game for us.
right,
You got to go home, and your parents got to come see you play, and it was great.
absolutely.
I loved it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think a lot of people did. Of course, it brought more money to the different schools when the games were moved to the campuses of
And that's what it's about today.
right. It's all about money. All about the money.
Michael, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you this morning?
Man, I think I might have a toothache or two, but I'm good.
Yeah, maybe we need to pull those teeth. We can use
I,
some pliers.
I think we can get them out of there, Tom.
And what is that you got on?
I am the fumigating man.
Oh, that's funny. What are those two things on the side? Look
Those
like
are
bits of
filters. So
cards.
I can spray all the poison air and all the poison out in the air, and it filters so I
Oh,
can keep breathing.
good deal. So what's happening with you, Michael? You moving, so you've been working all weekend, huh?
Yeah. Well, for the last month, it's taken me about a month to move. So I've been trying to find this, find that, and everything. And actually, I couldn't find my mask. And I thought about it last night. I said, "Oh, this is what I wore when COVID first came out, and they said you needed to find a mask. And when I couldn't get the regular mask, I used this because I had used this before when I was trying to clean out some pipes and stuff. And I
Mhm.
bought this, and I have goggles to go with it. So I was walking around in the stores with this on. People, I got a lot of reaction from it.
That
So
you did.
I said, well, I'll just grab that and use that instead since I couldn't find my mask.
All right. So, what do you guys think about? I want to Coach Prime in the game, his game this past weekend. They're giving him a hard time, but man, Coach Prime ain't got the players right now.
Doesn't he doesn't he went to the transfer portal and tried to get some players out of there. He brought in what 82, 85 new players or something. So he's still working with a kind of a makeshift team. And they did well at the beginning of the season, but at some point in time, I kind of figured they were going to crack and there were going to be some losses there. So I think he's doing the best he can with what he has right now. But I think he's still a great coach, and I still believe that he will be a winner there at
Yeah.
Colorado.
I mean, he just doesn't have an offensive line. That
Right.
left tackle he had, he was just we used to call that flag waving at people when they went by him, Oh,
Yes.
and
Warley.
yeah, exactly. it was embarrassing.
Yes.
Their offense. I mean, he's gonna get his son hurt if he don't get somebody that can
I
block.
know.
You
I
know?
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. He was beat up Saturday night and they were
Yeah,
laying
he
it
was.
on him.
Yeah.
So, you
Yeah,
know,
he
I
was
mean,
sacked. Wasn't he sacked like 9 or 10 times or something? Or did I read
yeah.
that somewhere? I
easily,
think just watched the
easily.
game. Mhm.
Yeah.
I when I don't know, man. I just he's gonna have to get back in that transfer portal. I guess he's recruiting.
Yes.
He needs some linemen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got
Yeah.
decent backs and receivers. He needs some
Right.
linemen.
I think
Yeah.
they've signed a couple of players. I don't know if any of them are linemen, but I know he's already signed quite a few players to come in next year. There may be 3 to 4, 5-star athletes. So I think he'll do really well recruiting wise, and hopefully he'll be able to get some good linemen in that crew as well.
And he, I mean, he knows it. He's been around football long enough to know that he's just outmatched.
Right.
There ain't a whole lot you can do when
That's
you're
so true.
outmatched. I mean, the quarterback doesn't even have time to go back and set up in the pocket. He
Right.
can't set up. He just got to go back and and keep going back or running or whatever. And they're
Right.
all over it, man.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this: Auburn won the speak. You think Auburn could beat Colorado?
I do.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say I think so. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, we probably got a better lineman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
I think we have
Okay,
better
Michael,
running
what's
back.
up with you, buddy?
Huh?
What's up with you?
Well, something I wanted to discuss. It's been in the news lately. Joseph Emerson. He was the off-duty pilot that was charged with interference with a flight crew and members when he tried to shut down the engines on a jetliner from Alaska a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
I go ahead. I saw that. I was trying to figure out how he was going to shut it down, but go ahead.
How did he
Well,
get in the cockpit, first of all?
yeah, because of his status as a pilot, they get to ride free and just catch on flights and stuff. And
Okay.
they allowed him to sit into the cockpit.
Oh.
And he was in the cockpit. And he tried to shut off the valves that provide gasoline to the engines in mid-flight.
Why?
Was the other pilots in there?
Yeah, they had to fight him off to get control of the plane.
Oh, wow.
And
What was his reason?
well, he admitted to experimenting with some magic mushrooms and told police he believed he took the mushrooms 48 hours before he attempted to cut down the engines and had not slept for 40 hours.
Oh,
And that
wow.
was his first time taking magic mushrooms.
Jeez.
It has that kind of effect on him. He needs to stay away from those, that's for sure.
Well, who would want to take magic mushrooms if you're an airline pilot and knowing you're going to be on a flight?
So what was the purpose of the magic mushroom? I mean, he was trying to get high?
Well, he'd been suffering from depression and he had some other issues. So
Okay.
when you add all that together plus magic mushrooms, that's a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Magic mushrooms by themselves are a recipe for disaster.
Yeah,
True.
there are over 180 species of the magic mushrooms, and they all have a distinct characteristic about the issues that they can cause.
Wow.
Well,
And
I can remember way back in college, some people had some experience with those things, and it wasn't pleasant. It was psychedelic mushrooms.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Since it's Halloween, I took the liberty of checking out a couple things that I'd like to share. Halloween has its roots in ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts and other creatures. Before pumpkins, people used to carve turnips and other vegetables to make lanterns.
Hmm.
And there are a couple of other things that's interesting. I did not know this. There are 100 different facts about Halloween, but originally wearing a mask at Halloween was for protection from the spirits, to
Oh,
ward
really?
off evil spirits. That's where that came from.
Interesting.
Yeah. I
And
think. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, a couple other things I wanted to mention. This is really crazy. There's no real policies for wearing masks, but in Dublin, Georgia, it is illegal to wear a mask if you are under the age of 16.
If you're under the age of 16,
Yes. And in
why?
Belleville, Illinois, it is also illegal to wear a mask if you are under the age of 12 years old. Can you
Why is
imagine that?
that? Do you know why?
I don't know. It's just some law.
That's dumb.
That's very
Why
interesting.
would they be under 16? I mean, so I guess the children there ain't trick or treat with mask on,
I guess they can wear face paint and stuff like that, you know?
or dress up as some character or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
don't understand what the rationale behind that would be. That makes no sense to me.
I remember when the COVID came out and we were wearing these masks, and I remember the first time I went in the bank with my mask on. I said, "Shit, this I could get hurt walking in this bank with a mask on.
Right. Right.
Somebody might take it the wrong way."
Exactly.
There is a world record for pumpkins, and it took 2 days to complete it. A guy used 2 pumpkins, one weighing 1,818 pounds, and another one 1,693 pounds. He created a zombie apocalypse scene using 2 pumpkins on October the 22nd through the 23rd, 2011.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
So let's see. We got the UAW strike. Looks like it's being settled,
Yes.
which is good for the people,
Yes, it
the
is.
workers. Well, good for the workers and the management, and get that settled, and hopefully everybody gets back to work. The active strike is still going on. They've been meeting last couple of days. Supposed to meet, I think, to meet again today, but they said that they're still far apart.
Wow.
So that one's gonna. I think that one will go on for a while. Because you're coming up on the holidays, and so a lot of the actors and the crews work away from home.
Right.
Our friend Stefan was working up in Pittsburgh, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you go back to that location, or what do you do? So, I think it'll be, once they settle it, then they'll go back to.
Right.
They'll figure out what they're going to do next.
Right.
Were you guys big fans of Friends?
I never watched Friends. I've never watched the show.
I heard of it. I didn't watch it that much either.
I don't think I've ever watched a full episode. Of course, I knew of the show and knew some of the actors, so I knew about Matthew Perry, but never really watched the show.
Well, I saw where that guy. I did read an article about him about 2-3 weeks ago, and about his addiction. And
Yes.
I never watched it as well. I remember the last show they had. Man, there were people all over. I was living in Birmingham. There were so many people, and they had a big to do at my friend's restaurant, and news people were all over town filming and interviewing people. And
Right.
I never saw the show.
They had a huge following, but for some reason I never got into it. I'm not a big TV person anyway. I mean, I watch specific shows, but I'm never one to just sit there and, for hours at a time and sit down and watch TV. So for some reason, Friends just never really appealed to me.
Well, it was kind of a culture thing that you didn't fit in that culture. Right. You didn't necessarily watch it.
Exactly.
I think you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Barbara, you look like one of those Martians on those scary movies.
I'm supposed to, Thom.
With the big heads.
I'm supposed to. That's what costumes are for.
So, what did you guys think about Auburn's game Saturday?
I was at the Classic, so I didn't get a chance to watch the game. I've seen a couple of highlights of it. I was going to ask you guys, was Auburn that much better? Or was Mississippi State just that bad? I couldn't really figure it out just from the highlights. So what did you guys think of it? I'm glad we won, of course.
Michael?
Well, I think Auburn probably had better personnel. Mississippi State came in with a better record than Auburn. They were like 4-3. Auburn was 3-4.
Okay.
So at the end of the game, they were both tied. I would say that Auburn probably had better personnel, but it's interesting. There was an article that came out where a reporter from Auburn said that the Auburn defense figured out Ole Miss play calls, and that whenever a play was called that started with a certain letter, they knew it was a run play.
Wow.
And they asked the head coach from Mississippi State about it, and he said he doesn't believe that was an issue. He said, we ended up making adjustments, and in the second half, we gained over 300-something yards and scored our 13 points. So he said there was nothing to it. The offensive coordinator said if they could figure out our signals, well, good for them, because there's so many signals being given by so many different people. So how would they know which person is really giving the true signals?
Right.
So
that's interesting.
I just think that maybe it was just a situation where Auburn was just better. They were at home. That gave them a little bit of a push. I am happy that they won, but I think that it really shortchanged Robbie Ashford because he didn't get a chance to throw the ball at all.
Wow.
He went in and, if he had 3 pass attempts, that was good, if that many. I don't know if he had that many.
I was going to ask you.
I don't think he had any after I looked at the stats. I think all he did was run the ball.
Wow.
So if they don't let you throw the ball, that can help that narrative continue to permeate that you can't throw.
Right.
You can never throw the ball if the coaches don't allow you to throw the ball. So that helps them with their case of saying, well, he can't throw. So
well, I'm gonna go out a little further on this limb and say I think Robbie Ashford's probably done at Auburn. I think they'll bring in another quarterback next year.
Right.
And I think he may end up in the portal and find somewhere where he can play.
Right. Because is it Walker White? Isn't he coming this coming year? He'll be coming in, and he's been promoted as being probably the starter next year. So
who's that?
Walker White is still in high school right now. He's been. I think he signed with Auburn, or maybe a year ago.
Well, if he's in high school, they're gonna have to teach him how to play quarterback, just like they would have to teach him, just like those people at Oregon have taught Bo Nix. You
Right.
know, Bo Nix was when he was at Auburn, he was running backwards 40 yards and stuff.
That's true.
And as Michael say, throwing the ball on the ground and all that.
Right.
So, but I just don't think that they're willing to go that way with Robbie Ashford.
Right.
It just doesn't seem like. I mean, I saw him come in one play and he handed off, and then he went back out.
Yeah.
Well,
That's bad.
that tells me you're basically not investing in this guy.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that's interesting, and it's something I didn't think about till I watched that game on Saturday. And so, if you're in the NFL and you get drafted high, and Byron and Joe Cribbs, when they were on a couple of weeks ago, sort of alluded to this.
Mm-hmm.
The higher you get and the more money they invest in you, better chances you're going to make that team and you're going to play.
Right.
If you're a free agent, your chances of making that team, especially if they got 19 people going out for the wide receiver position and they're only going to keep 4, and 3 of them were on the team the previous year. So you really got one job.
Right.
And I think I'm wondering, I don't know. I just wonder if the NIL determines who's going to play in some cases.
I think you're right, Thom.
If you,
I think
I
you're
don't
onto
know. I'm
something.
not saying that for a fact. I'm just saying
Right.
I wonder because you
Right.
got money tied up in this guy. You
Right.
had him come from another school,
Right.
and so I just wonder if
I think you're absolutely correct about that. The more money they have invested in the player, the higher their chances are getting to play because whoever put that money up for the investment wants to see a return on their investment, and you can't really blame them for that. But it's turning college football into something similar to the NFL, and I don't think that was the intent, but it's certainly turning out that way.
Michael.
Well, if you look at the game against Ole Miss, Robbie Ashford was the one that basically had a more positive play, a series of play that led the team down the field.
Right.
And they kind of played them evenly. But in this particular game, Robbie Ashford didn't get to play much at all. So we don't know what he could have done. That takes me back to what Thom is saying. The decision's been made. We're going to make sure that Thorne is the guy. And there's got to be something behind that.
Right.
You know, when you look at it. And if you look at Nick Saban at Alabama, everybody was down on Jalen Milroe, saying he wasn't the quarterback after Nick had started him as the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They go down to University of South Florida, and Nick plays these other 2 guys, and they were just awful.
Right.
He came back with Milroe and say, "This is our quarterback."
Right.
And they've taken off from that point on.
Yeah.
But Milroe was given more of an opportunity to be the quarterback than what Robbie Ashford has at Auburn.
And Milroe was told, you're the quarterback. Don't worry about it.
Right.
So you ain't got to look over your shoulder every time you make a mistake.
Right.
And I'll just say this about Robbie Ashford, and I don't know the young man. I wish him well. But he played better last year than he's playing this year. This year, it's in his head. He's trying to play and look over his shoulder. If you go in for one play and you hand off and you come back out, I'd probably have a bad attitude about it.
Right. And that's the thing, Thom. He doesn't have a bad attitude. The young man is really, he's a fine young man. Comes from a great family. I know his mother, and I really feel bad for him because I think he is talented. He's just not he's never been given an opportunity to really showcase his talent this season. And for whatever reason, they have continued that competition between he and Thorne, but not really giving either one of them an opportunity. Well, at least in the Robbie's case, giving him an opportunity to show what he can do. and not feel like I'm gonna be put in for a play and then have to come right back out and somebody else. Yeah, I'll get them down to the 20-yard line and they put somebody else in there to score. That
Yeah,
should go ahead.
no, no. It was interesting at the beginning of the season. He was red zone rabbit,
Right. Yes.
and
Yes.
that sort of, I think that created a little bit of a little bit of a controversy that probably the coaches didn't want to have,
Right.
because it creates probably some dissension on the team.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I just it's a problem that seems to manifest itself more at Auburn University than many any other schools I see that try to play more than one quarterback.
That's so true.
Well, all I can say is this: if you're coming in to play this position, but you are only limited to handing the ball off or running as a quarterback, and you don't get enough opportunities to really throw the ball, then you don't have a fair opportunity,
Right.
because the playbook that you're operating on is a small segment of the total offensive package.
Mhm.
But your competition is operating on a much larger space in the playbook and given more opportunities to throw the ball and throw it downfield. When Robbie threw the ball downfield, he did pretty well.
Right.
But when it's like that, that's basically saying the cards are stacked against you and we're going to go in a different direction. And
Right.
this is how we justify what we're doing by doing it this way.
I don't disagree with you.
Right.
Um, you were talking earlier about Auburn stealing Mississippi State signals. Sometimes that isn't real difficult to do, because I can remember our defensive guys would call out Roger or Leo.
Right.
Well, Roger was to the right, Leo was to the left. I mean,
Mhm.
it didn't take a genius to figure out.
Right.
So,
Right.
and then one year we had the guys would come in and they would run the plays in with the offensive guard, because we had like three offensive guards that were interchangeable.
Right.
And so when the one that wasn't in, they would send the plays in with him, and they sent this play with this one guy, and he took off from the sideline. And he's running out to the huddle, and he gets halfway and he stops, and it's like, oh hell, he done forgot to play.
Oh wow.
Come on, come on. He's
So
looking at us.
what did he do? Did he go back to the sideline
He's
and get the play and come back?
looking back at the coaches. He's looking at us. He's looking at the coach. He finally gets to the huddle and he don't remember the play, so we just make up a play.
Oh wow.
Well,
How
maybe it
embarrassing.
wasn't that difficult to figure out their plays if they were
Yeah.
running plays as simplistic as that. So,
Wow.
Um,
oh,
Tom, when we come back from letting Sean got a minute, I'd like to talk about John Shaft.
I'd like to talk about him as well. Let's go to Sean. Sean's got a minute for us. When we come back, we'll talk about who's the black private dick that's a sex machine to all the chicks. Shaft. Sean, you got it.
Good morning, Ghosts and Ghouls. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute. How much do you love Halloween? If you're a big fan of the spooky season, you probably had tons of fun doing Halloween activities, making Halloween costumes, visiting pumpkin patches, or even planning dinner. But even if you are the world's biggest Halloween enthusiast, there may still be a lot that you don't know about the holiday. To brush up on your knowledge, I've rounded up some spooky and surprising Halloween facts. Like, for one, approximately 46% of Americans plan to make jack-o'-lanterns this year. Transylvania is a real place. there's a statue of Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th at the bottom of the lake in Crosby, Minnesota. New York is home to the world's largest Halloween parade. Americans spend more than $100 on Halloween. In Germany, it's tradition for people to hide their knives on Halloween night. The goal is to prevent the spirits from returning and getting injured. And people originally carved turnips instead of pumpkins. I hope everyone was safe over the weekend, and I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
All right. What was that song had on her head?
That was her costume, Thom.
That was a star.
She had a mask as well. Okay, so where did we leave off here? Michael,
Well,
go ahead.
we lost Richard Roundtree in the last few weeks, John Shaft.
Yeah.
And, ironically, it is a bit of irony because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yeah.
And Richard Roundtree himself was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah.
Yes, men can get breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And he unfortunately had an issue with that. And supposedly he died of a cancer-related illness. I don't know if it was breast cancer or not, but I think that he got treated for that. And I read that he came out of the closet, so to speak, regarding the breast cancer at a charity when they were talking about cancer that he was attending. And he let it be known at that time that he had been diagnosed with breast cancer. And that kind of opened it up that men can get breast cancer as well.
My Richard Roundtree story. So I went to an audition one day in Los Angeles, and my dad was out visiting with me, and so he went with me. And when you go on an audition, you've got all these guys. In that time, all these guys, we were in the same category, of which they were looking for people for that particular job. And there were quite a few of us there that day. And so, and Richard Roundtree was one of them. So we go in there, and Richard Roundtree's there, and several other guys who were probably on higher profile, maybe than myself. And so my dad goes in there, and my dad's looking around at all the guys, and he recognizes some of the guys because they've been big stars and so on. So my dad says, "You be in here with these guys?" And I said, "Yeah, Dad." So he was impressed that I was in the room with Richard Roundtree.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. John Shaft, if I'm not mistaken, he was probably the first leading man that played a good tough guy, so to speak.
Yeah.
Who wasn't a criminal.
Right.
Wasn't a policeman, but he was more of an independent.
Yeah.
Right.
Guy. And I think what was so beautiful about that movie to me was Isaac Hayes did the music. It gave a lot of jobs to people.
Yeah.
Gordon Parks directed it.
Right.
So it was really special. And this was at the time when I don't know when whomever came up with this term, blaxploitation movies. I still hadn't figured out who was getting exploited.
Right.
Because black people were getting jobs, they were generating funds and so on and so forth. So how were they being exploited? I hadn't figured that out yet. But I figured that's just somebody came up with and everybody ran with it.
Right.
But yeah, Richard Roundtree was great. And he used to be the Ebony guy. He was a model for Ebony.
Yeah.
So he had a great career.
Yes.
He's always one of my favorite actors of all time. I'll always remember going to see Shaft. That movie came out in 1971, and that's when really enjoyed going to the movies. And yeah, he was an amazing actor.
I remember the opening, and I also I read a lot about the background of it and how Gordon Parks hired Isaac Hayes to do the music. And
Hmm.
Isaac Hayes came up with this great music. Actually, one of the guys, the guy who played the guitar that in that thing was from Auburn, and he was in Isaac Hayes' band.
Okay.
Um, and so it was. I remember when the opening scene. I remember when I saw the preview. Now it was another movie, and then they previewed the upcoming movies,
Yes.
and that music comes on, and he's walking across the street, in New York. The cars are coming, and he's hitting the car,
Yes.
telling the people to wait, and it's like, man, this is a different. In other words, this ain't Sidney Poitier. This
Right.
this is a
Yes.
different. This is a different black man leading this movie.
Yes.
Which was a whole different cultural thing
Hmm.
at that time. So
Yeah.
it was great.
Yes,
And,
he
and,
was.
and when he said he was a bad mother, shut your
Shut
mouth.
your mouth. And he was a bad mother.
Yes, he
So I
was.
got a couple of other things. Um, Unfortunately, the mass shootings uh, rose its ugly head again this weekend.
Yes.
Um, 8 people were dead, dozens wounded. People were killed in Tampa, Chicago, Indianapolis, San Antonio, Texarkana, Texas, and Atlanta.
In
Um,
Maine, there was one in Lewiston, Maine, as well.
yeah,
Man.
that was the big one
Yes.
before. There, they killed 18 and wounded 13.
Right.
So, and then the new Speaker of the House, what he said was something to do with their heart or whatever. It didn't have anything to do with guns.
Right. He said it didn't have anything to do with the guns. It's the people's hearts
Yeah,
that purchased the guns.
yeah. So
Well, let me
we
just comment on that. From one particular standpoint, yes, that's true. The gun just didn't get up and go shoot somebody. It had to have human interaction. But if you have humans that have mental illnesses, the inability to control themselves, then the only logical thing is to remove guns from their access.
Right.
You can make an argument that the guns didn't do it, the person did it. Well, this person in Maine, he was a former military person. I think
Yes.
he worked at a gun range and taught people how to shoot, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
But he had a lot of mental illnesses.
Yes.
And the police had been called out to see him a couple of times.
Yeah, that was actually an alert out for him. They were actually looking for him at the time, I mean, of the shooting because his family tried to have him committed. And so they were actually searching for him. He purchased a gun after there was a manhunt looking for him to try to commit him. And how in the world could they allow someone to buy a gun when he's they're actually looking for him to try to put him in a facility to give him mental health uh, help, and there's
Yeah.
something majorly wrong.
It's reported that he was hearing voices and all kinds of stuff. This guy was really messed up.
Yes.
And it's not like he just popped up on the radar. They had known about this for a while.
Hmm.
That's where things fall through the cracks. And I just wonder if it would have been different had it been somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not following you. What do you mean?
Well, I think this guy was given the benefit of the doubt because of his background and who he was.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know.
I venture to say that if it was reported that I was having mental health issues and people were trying to get a gun from me, I don't think I'd have that freedom.
I hear you.
And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why we need those automatic weapons out on the street, regardless of who's
We
got.
don't. We don't.
I mean, whether you're mentally stable or mentally unstable. Why do you need that?
Well, now I will tell you that another argument is being made, and I'm just putting it out, not saying that I agree or disagree, but I've heard some people say, look at what's happening over there in Israel and Gaza, and Hamas went in killing innocent people and civilians. If they had had guns, they could have protected themselves. And so that argument you're going to hear when it comes to gun control is, what if what happened over there were to happen here? We have the right to bear arms to protect ourselves. So,
Yeah, but the
where do
people
you,
who get killed don't have guns.
Right.
yes,
They're at a bowling alley.
Right.
So what are you gonna do? Take your gun to the bowling alley? I mean,
Yeah.
that argument doesn't hold any water for me. It's the
I agree.
guns, man. Cut the shit. It's the guns,
Right.
you know. And they need to cut the crap. And that
agree.
they're in bed with the NRA or whoever's sponsored, whoever's giving them money, tells them to be quiet, and so they're quiet. Right? And
I will say here in Georgia, there's some legislation that's being floated around about having more resource officers at school that are armed, and having some teachers designated to be armed at schools now as a result of this. Because,
school doors are locked now, aren't they?
well,
They're supposed to be.
they're supposed to be, but the deal that happened in Uvalde, Texas, all the doors were locked but the one.
Yeah.
And I think somebody had gone out or something happened, and it wasn't locked. That was the one he went into. So you gotta come up with something that works for both sides.
You can lock all the doors. You can arm the the teachers and all of that. But if the villains, the people with mental health issues, didn't have the guns, again, that wouldn't be as major of an issue. So there needs to be stronger rules in place to screen out people that, especially those that have mental health issues, that they cannot purchase a gun. It's different if they go steal the gun or take it from them, but they actually go and legally purchase a gun and possess it. That's where the problem lies for me. That's where my major concern is. If they could control that, I think we could eliminate some of these mass shootings that are taking place.
Yeah, I don't know.
I watched some of the interviews yesterday of family members of those who had passed away there in Maine, and how broken the family members were, because the families went out. They were having a children's bowling tournament or something, a family event at that bowling alley there in Maine, and no one would expect anything to happen there. Um, and how they, just lives lost for no reason whatsoever.
Well,
And
as I said earlier, tonight there'll be hundreds of people on the street out here. Be hundreds of children with the parents. And if somebody's unstable or stable and they show up with one of those automatic weapons,
right,
it would be a catastrophe.
Absolutely.
It would be horrible. And so a parent has to, there has to be some trepidation about letting your kid just go out and run up and down the street.
Right.
for Halloween. It's
Right.
changing everything. Everything, the way we live, is changing.
It
Uh,
is.
I told my wife, when we go to the movies now, when you go to the movies now, because it's like, let's do this as cheaply as possible. So
Right.
most of the people working are children.
Yes.
The people behind the counter are teenagers.
Yes.
The people who take up the tickets are young people.
Right.
And there are no guards there. There are no policemen there. Um, um, and so in that case, I think you're ignoring something. You're ignoring an issue that's a prominent issue in our society.
That's true.
And so it's I don't know. I have guns, so I'm not against guns.
Right.
Um, but we could do more. Could
I
definitely
agree.
do.
Well,
Um,
we're going to have to, we got to find a way to resolve this issue and allow people the right to protect themselves, but keep the guns out of the hands of the mentally unstable and the criminals. And how do you do it? I don't know.
And what if you have a gun? Why do you need an AK-47 or whatever these automatic weapons are? Why is that needed? Those
that's
things should be
that's I think,
illegal to
to me
possess.
that's the issue. I
Yes.
have guns. I have pistols. I've had a
Right.
shotgun that I've had since I used to hunt a long time ago.
Right.
Why would I need something that fires off a gazillion rounds in a few minutes and that disfigures a person, blows holes in people? Can't
Absolutely.
even recognize the people once they've
Right.
been. Um,
And most of the mass shootings, that's what they're using. And again, if
and
those could be
it
outlawed,
should, to me, it should not be a political issue.
right?
It
I
should be a
agree.
human issue,
I agree, Tom.
something that we deal with because it's good for humanity. It's
Yes.
good for the citizens of this country. So anyway, um, so let's see, where are we now? Um, I've got anybody got anything else?
Well, I got a couple things. You know, the Trump trials, and I use an S on it, trials, are all over the place. But here in Georgia, there was a state senator by the name of Colton Moore who tried to bring to pass a piece of legislation to impeach Bonnie Willis for her going after Donald Trump. And that was in spite of 32 out of 33 state senators, including the governor and lieutenant governor, telling him it was impossible to do this. He was intent on doing it anyway and saying that they were rhinos, Republicans in name only, and he was standing up for the people and standing up for Republican principles. Well, he's now been suspended
Good.
because he said that he is bringing unnecessary tension and hostility to his colleagues and their families and risking them a personal harm by continuing to do this. So they have suspended him now, even though he's saying he's going to continue to fight for the people. Now, what I find interesting about this is, Donald Trump could end up being a convicted felon by the time we roll around to voting, but he is still leading in the polls to be the nominee for the Republican Party. I don't understand why people do not understand that he's only doing this as an attempt to subvert any action towards him.
Exactly.
That's his main reason for doing that.
Exactly. And I don't understand how people can still follow this man. He was at a campaign event, I think, last week, and he was giving his speech, and he made a statement that where he's talking about, um, he, something about, wait a minute, let me actually read it because I can't believe it myself if I can see this. Um, he was making a statement about something about us. And then he said, us in the U.S. And he said, did you realize that us and U.S. is spelled the same? And I'm thinking, he's calling himself a stable genius. He just realized in that second that the word us and U.S. for United States was actually the same letters. I'm thinking, how could anyone follow him with that type of mindset? Where I just don't understand. Among all the other issues that he has, he doesn't even, where's his thought process?
Well, it shouldn't be a thought process because of the situation he's in.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he should not be allowed to run, and the people in the party should not nominate him to
Right.
run.
Right.
But that's that double standard that exists in America, and that's why we have so much upheaval here because of the double standards. And certain people are allowed to do things where other people would not be allowed to do things in the same situation.
And it hasn't always been that way, Michael. What happened? What caused that division, that divisiveness? It's greater today than it's ever been before in my mind.
Well, I have a theory. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I think that Obama had the audacity to become president.
Yeah.
I
And if you
definitely think
notice,
that had something to do. That had something to do with it.
Yes.
yeah, and not only to run and be elected once, but to do it again.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
And Trump,
I'll say this, and I don't know how you guys feel about her, and I don't know that I don't know that much about it, but there's this huge fear to me, about Kamala Harris,
Absolutely.
and they dogged this woman up and down the street.
Mm-hmm.
She's no different than any other politician.
Right.
And I think there's the fear she's next in line if, in
Yeah.
fact, something. And Biden is what, 80 years old or whatever he is. I think that's why maybe his age is brought up all the time.
Right.
Um, there just seems to be this trepidation about this woman. And our
Right.
title is she's a woman. Same thing with Nikki Haley and other and Mrs. Clinton, who's run for
Right.
president.
Right.
And so I think there's this. I think the fact that Obama was president does have something to do with it because
Probably right.
Trump has made it known that he doesn't care for Obama,
Right.
and he doesn't have to explain why he doesn't care for him. It's like well, just look at him.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Exactly. He keeps
So
he keeps bringing up Obama like Obama's running for president in
yeah,
2024.
well, that's what I'm saying. He identified a chord that he could use to promote himself and use it to divide America along lines like that.
Right.
And that's what he's using and fueling. And those same people that will go and commit crimes against the U.S. in the name of Trump are still of that mindset.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying that everybody that voted for Trump is like that. Some people voted for him because of his policies.
Right.
And let's be honest. He had good policies. Not only that, he had an even better cabinet. He had a cabinet of all-star people. And if he had just shut his mouth and allowed them to do their jobs, and he implemented and execute, we would have been okay, and he would have been president again. But he couldn't do that because he's such a narcissist.
Yeah.
And it was all about him.
He wants to be a dictator. That's what he wants.
I go back with him to the USFL. He destroyed the USFL because of his ego. And when the USFL was founded, it was founded on the fact that they could poach players from the NFL. They could poach good players
Right.
And they would only be a spring league.
Right.
Well, they were successful in that 1 year. I don't know if they had 1 year or 2 years, whatever. But he kept pushing that they should go in the fall and they should go head up with the NFL,
NFL. Right.
which wasn't the way that it was drawn up.
Right.
And then they sued the NFL. They won. They got $1, and they got triple damages, so they gave them $3. And
Wow.
the USFL went away until now. But he basically destroyed it.
Well, he wasn't a good businessman. I mean, pretty much everything he's touched has been ruined. You know, he's ruined everything. He's just not a good businessman. He just was in the right place at the right time, and his family had money, and
There's
he
nothing.
appeared to be successful.
Anyway, anything else? Well, thank you guys. Happy Halloween to you. I'm glad we had this Halloween fun, and hopefully we'll all enjoy ourselves this evening if that's what we end up doing, and we'll be back next week. Anything else from either one of you?
Nope. Happy Halloween.
I'm going to finish up with my closing comments. 2 weeks ago, I was provided the opportunity to speak with an honors class at my alma mater, Auburn University. It was wonderful. It was quite an honor, and it's something that I enjoy. I've been doing it now for about 4 or 5 years. This past week, I was involved with another group of students in a program called the Melton Scholars. It's a new program, the brainchild of 2 alums from Auburn. It also is exciting with a tremendous amount of potential. I classify the 2 initiatives as strange, but certainly wonderful. Why strange? I've been doing the honors class for about the past 5 years, and the students are from all over with varying majors and curious minds. The Melton Scholars are younger, many are freshmen, but no less curious. Why are these situations somewhat strange? Well, in the honors class, for the 5 years that I've done it, there's never been a student of color. Not one in 5 years. The Melton Scholars, with the exception of one student, were all of color. Only white kids in this class, all black kids primarily in this class. There was one white guy. How did we get ourselves into this? More importantly, how do we get ourselves out of it? And that's how I see it on this October 31st in the year of 2023. And that's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. Thank Michael and Barbara. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl. Thanks again to Sean, Emily, and Joyce. And that's it for this October the 31st. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.